Slavic. He just aced his vehicle inspection and volunteered to show you guys how it's done. So on the pre-trip, as you conduct your pre-trip inspection, point to or touch each item you are inspecting and tell me what it is and how to inspect it. You only need to inspect one side of the vehicle for outside items unless something is different or unique from the opposite side. You only need to inspect the steer, the drive, and the last trailer axle unless something is different or unique from the other axles. When you activate your lights, I will watch to see that they work. Do you have any questions so far?
Nope.
Where would you like to start your pre-trip?
The lights.
Let's do it. Okay, Slavic's in the tractor, Tester's out front. We're going to demonstrate our lights.
I'm gonna put it in on position. The key's in on position. This is my headlights, my high beam, my right turn signal, my left turn signal, my 4-way flashers, and my clearance lights.
Good. Now we turn all the lights off. Tester walks to the back of the truck. And we demonstrate the rear lights.
My lights, my turn signal light, my right turn signal light, my left turn signal light, and my 4-way flashers, and brake light.
Good. Now the tester's going to climb back up into the cab. And Slavic is going to continue with his in-cab.
And I'm going to start from my brake check. I'm going to check my brakes. And I'm going to start the vehicle. I'm gonna check my tractor parking brake first, and to do so I'm gonna apply my tractor protection valve. I will put it in a low gear, and I will move forward to feel a tag, a light tag. The tractor parking brakes works properly. Next, I'm gonna check my tractor protection valve, and to do so, I'm gonna apply my tractor parking brakes and release my tractor protection valve.
Vice versa.
And I'm gonna move forward to feel a light tag. The tractor protection valves works properly. Next, I'm gonna check my service brakes. I'm gonna apply both of them in my tractor parking brakes and tractor protection valve.
When you push those in, you are actually doing what? You're actually releasing your brakes?
Releasing my brakes.
There you go.
And I will move forward a couple of feet and apply my service brakes. Okay, the service brakes works properly. Next, I'm gonna do my air leak check.
Good. And at this point, the tester is going to read you a cue for your air supply system. Inspect the air supply system for the air brakes. You need to make 3 different checks. Tell me what you are checking, how you are checking each item. Be specific, and you may begin.
Okay, I'm gonna I will wait until my air fills the air tank. put the keys in on position, and I will do the air leak check, and I'm gonna time the 1 minute, and the air will not drop more than 4 psi in 1 minute. And to do so, and I'm gonna start 1 minute. With my foot on brakes. The air didn't leak. The minute is over, and the air didn't leak more than 4 psi in 1 minute. Next, I'm gonna check. I'm gonna do my low air warning lights and buzzers, and they're supposed to activate at 60 or above psi. And to do so, I'm gonna continue. I'm gonna fan my brakes until it's activated. Okay, the low air warning lights activated at 60 and above psi. Next, I'm gonna check my tractor protection valve. It's supposed to pop out between 20 and 45 psi. And to do so, I'm gonna continue to fan my service brakes until the tractor protection valves are pop out. Okay, the tractor protection valve did pop out between 20 and 45 psi. Next, I'm gonna check my air governing cutout, and it's supposed to cut out between 100 and 125 psi. And I'm gonna be listening for whoosh. And to do so, I'm gonna do my safety start. I'm gonna set my both valves, my tractor parking brake and tractor protection valves, and I'm gonna push my clutch. I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna shift it to a neutral position, and I'm gonna start vehicle. I'm gonna check my clutch again, make sure it's neutral position. Slowly release my clutch, and the truck is secured. And while the air is building in the system, air supply system, I'm gonna continue my in-cab check, and I'm gonna start from the mirrors. The mirrors are securely mounted, has no loose or missing nuts or bolts or fittings, and it's not cracked, it's not broken, it's not chipped, and it's clean free of debris, and it's adjusted to me. Next, I'm gonna check my windshield. Windshield is securely mounted, it's not cracked or broken, and it's not chipped. and nothing blocks my vision, such as illegal stickers. Next, I'm gonna check my defrosters works properly. My heater works properly. Next, I'm gonna check my horns. This is my city horns and air horn. Both of them works properly. Next, I'm gonna check my seat belt. I just heard the whoosh, and air governing did cut out between 100 and 125 psi. I'm gonna check my seat belt. The seat belt are securely mounted and it's securely fastened, and it has no cuts, and it's not frayed. It has no any rips, and it's properly adjusted. Next, I'm gonna demonstrate my lights. My dash lights. My right turn signal, my left turn signal, four-way flashers, and high beam. All of them works properly. Next, I'm gonna check my gauges. My coolant gauge shows that it getting to the normal operating range. My oil level shows that it works in normal operating range. And the air gauges shows that it works in normal operating range between 100 and 125 psi. And my electrical gauge shows that electrical system is charging. And I forgot to check another thing, to demonstrate you another thing, is my ABS lights and my oil gauge. To do so, I'm going to shut off the engine and start it again. And it shows that my ABS lights came on and went out, and ABS lights are not remaining in a trailer. And it shows that oil gauge shows that it immediately climbing to the normal operating range. My partial cab vehicle check is done.
So you've completed your in cab.
Yes.
So now we will step outside with the tester and we'll continue outside.
Okay. Next, I'm gonna check my lights, my headlights, clearing lights, or all other lights. They're securely mounted. They're not cracked or broken, and the lens are clean and reflective. And the lights are proper color for their position, red to the rear and white and amber elsewhere. And I will check the bottles. There's no leaking oil, engine oil, or rear transmission oil, or any other liquids. And I'm gonna start from radiator reservoir. It's securely mounted, has no loose or missing nuts or bolts. It's not cracked or broken, and it's not leaking. And the hoses are coming out of the reservoir are tightly connected, and they're not cracked or cut, or they're not leaking, missing any clamps. I'm gonna check my air compressor. It's securely mounted, has no loose or missing nuts or bolts. It's not cracked or broken, and it's not leaking air. The water pump are securely mounted, has no loose or missing nuts or bolts. It's not cracked or broken, and it's not leaking water. All engine hoses are tightly connected. They're not caught, cracked, they're not rubbing, and they're not leaking. Next, I'm gonna check the leaf spring hangers. They're securely mounted, then has no loose or missing nuts or bolts. It's not cracked or broken. The bushings are not cracked or broken, and they are present. They're not missing. The leaf springs are not missing. They're not cracked. They're not shifting, and they're not cracked or broken. The U-bolts are securely mounted. There's no loose or missing nuts or bolts, and the U-bolts are not damaged. It's not bented. The shock absorber are securely mounted. There's no loose or missing nuts or bolts or any other fitting parts, and it's not bended. And it's not leaking. The airbag are securely mounted. Has no loose or missing nuts or bolts. It's not caught. It's not cracked. It's not bulging, and it's not deflected, and it's not leaking. The brake hoses or brake lines are tightly connected. They're not cracked, they're not caught, they're not frayed, they're not rubbing, and it's not leaking. And the hoses couplings are they're tightly connected, and they're not leaking as well. The brake chamber or brake canister are securely mounted. Has no loose or missing nuts or bolts or clamps, and it's not leaking air. The slack adjuster is securely mounted. Has no loose or missing nuts or bolts or cotter pinks or any other parts, and is properly adjusted to the manufacturer specifications. Brake drums, they're not cracked or broken, and it's not dented, and it's not bent, and it has no any holes, and there's no signs of grease or oil. The brake shoes are securely mounted. Has no loose or missing nuts or bolts or springs or rivets, and there's no signs of grease or oil, and it has at least quarter of an inch of pad remaining. The tire has at least, it's evenly worn, and has at least 30 seconds of tread remaining in each groove. The sidewall has no cuts, no cracks, no bumps, and it's not bulging, no abrasions or any exposed cords or any other damage to it. The bit flange are not damaged. There's no dents, no cracks, and it's not leaking through it. The rim is not cracked or broken, and no weld repairs. The lug nuts are securely mounted. They're not loose or missing. They're tight, and the signs of a loose nut would be shiny threads or rust trails. And the lug nut holes, the lug bolt holes has no cracks goes around it or between them. And the stem valve are securely mounted and it's not leaking. And to check the air, I will use my air pressure gauge. The hub seal is securely mounted, it's not leaking, and it's filled with the proper oil level. And to check that, I will take the beauty cap and see through the glass and the hub seal. If there is no glass in the hub seal, I will take that rubber cap and stick my finger to check the oil level. This side I'm gonna start with my alternator. Securely mounted, has no loose or missing nuts or bolts. It's not cracked or broken. The wires are they're tightly connected, and the wires are not cracked, they're not cut, and there's no burned wiring. The belts are not cracked, they're not cut, they're not frayed, there's no loose fiber, and it's not playing more than from 1/2 to 3/4 inch or deflected. Oil level. The engine, the motor oil level is in secure, proper position above the add mark. That's where I will check it, and this is where I would add it if I needed to. The power steering is securely mounted, has no loose or missing nuts or bolts or any other clamps, and it is in secure, proper oil, and it's filled with proper oil level above the add mark. And this is where I would check it with the dipstick. And the hoses coming out of it is tightly connected. They're not cut or cracked, and they're not leaking. The power steering box are securely mounted, has no loose or missing nuts or bolts, and it's not cracked or broken, and it's not leaking. Now we'll verify my steering linkage. This is my Pitman arm. This is my drag link, and there is my steering knuckle and tie rod. All of them are securely mounted. There's no loose or missing nuts or bolts or cotter pins, and there has no cracks and the connections between them. I think I'm done over here, this side. And I'm gonna start from mirrors. They're securely mounted, has no loose or missing nuts or bolts or fittings. It's not cracked or broken. Next I'm gonna check my door. It securely opens and closes, and there is no dents or any other damage on it. And the weather seal is fully attached all around. And the doors hinges are secured. The fire extinguisher are securely mounted and properly charged and rated for 10 ABC. and securement pin is in it. Next I'm gonna check the stairs or steps. They're securely mounted, has no loose or missing nuts or bolts. It's not cracked or broken, it's not shifting, and it's free of debris. The lights are securely mounted. The lens are not cracked or broken, and it's clean and reflective. Now in my storage box, I have 3 reflective triangles in it and spare fuses ready for this vehicle. Fuel tank. The fuel tank is securely mounted. There's no loose or missing nuts or bolts. It's not cracked or broken. The cap is tight. And the fuel tank and the cap and the fuel lines are not leaking. Next I'm gonna check my exhaust system. Securely mounted, has no loose or missing nuts or bolts or mounting parts, has no holes, has no cracks, and it's not leaking. And the signs of leakage and the signs of leaking would be rust and soot trails. Next I'm gonna check my tractor frame and cross members. They're securely mounted, has no loose or missing nuts or bolts, and it's not cracked or shifted or twisted. Next I'm gonna check my drive shift or drive line. Securely mounted, has no loose or missing nuts or bolts or U-joints. It's not bented, and the U-joints are clean and free of debris. My deck plate and stairs are securely mounted. Has no loose or missing nuts or bolts. It's not cracked or broken, and it's not shifting, and it's clean and free of debris. My torque arm. My torque arm securely mounted, has no loose or missing nuts or bolts. It's not cracked or broken. The 5th wheel airline are tightly connected, and it's not leaking. The tractor air line connections, couplings, are securely tightly connected, and it's not leaking. The air hose are both not cracked, not cut, they're not rubbing, they're not frayed, and they're not leaking. And the electrical line are securely mounted, and the insulation around the electrical line are not cut, not cracked, they're not pinched, they're not spliced, and there's no any excessive wears. And there's no exposed wiring. Same thing in a trailer. The connections are glad hands are tightly connected, and they're not leaking. And the hoses are not, the air hoses are not cracked or cut or frayed or rubbing, and they're not leaking air. The electrical line are securely mounted, and it has the insulator are not, it's not cut, cracked, it's not pinched or spliced, and no any exposed wiring or any other excessive wears. Next I'm gonna check my dually. The dually are not touching, has space between them, and the signs of if it would be touching, it's a signs of a deflated tire, and it's clean and free of debris. The tires are evenly worn and has at least 30 seconds of tread remaining in each groove. The sidewall of the tire has no tread separations, it's not cut, it's not cracked, and has no bumps, no abrasions, it's not bulging or exposed squirts or any other damage to it. The bed flange are not damaged, there's no dents or cracks, and it's not leaking through it. The wheel has no any illegal weld repairs. The axle seal are securely mounted, and it's not leaking, and it has proper oil level. And to check that, I will take the cap and the differential and stick my finger to check it. The lug nuts are securely mounted, they're not loose or missing, and they're all tight, and the signs of a loose bolt would be shiny threads or rust trails, and the lug bolt holes has no any cracks goes around them or between them, and the stem valve are securely mounted, it's not damaged, and it's not leaking. And to check my air pressure, I will use my air pressure gauge. Okay, my fifth wheel platform, securely mounted, has no loose or missing nuts or bolts, it's not cracked or broken. This is my fifth wheel skid plate, securely mounted, has no loose or missing nuts or bolts or pins, and the all pins are fully attached and locked and locked position. And my trailer apron are not cracked or broken, and there's no space between apron and fifth wheel skid plate. There's no gap or there's no space between them. And the skid plate and the fifth wheel skid plate are properly lubricated. This is my I will check my arm, release arm. It's locked and latch position. And all pins are in touch, and they're all in locked position. Next, I'm gonna check my leaf spring hangers. They're securely mounted, has no loose or missing nuts or bolts, it's not cracked or broken. And my bushings are present, they're not missing, they're not cracked or broken. The leaf springs, they're securely mounted, they're not missing, they're not broken, they're not shifting, and has no cracks on them. The airbag are securely mounted, has no loose or missing nuts or bolts, it's not cut, there's no cracks, it's not bulging, and it's not deflected, it's not deflated, and it's not leaking. It's not leaking air. My shock absorber, securely mounted, has no loose or missing nuts or bolts or any other fitting parts, and it's not bented, and it's not leaking. My brake chambers are securely mounted, has no loose or missing nuts or bolts or clamps, and it's not cracked or broken, and it's not leaking air. The slack adjuster. Let's see. Okay. The slack adjuster are securely mounted, has no loose or missing nuts or bolts or cotter pins, and it's not cracked or broken, and is properly adjusted for the manufacturer specifications. Air hoses, air lines are tightly connected. They're not cut, cracked, they're not frayed or rubbing, and they're not leaking. And the hoses couplings are tightly connected, and they're not leaking as well. My mount flaps are securely mounted. There's no loose or missing nuts or bolts. It's not cracked or broken, and it's not torn or ripped, and it it's hanging at least to the middle of the axle. The kingpin are not broken, it's not bented, and the fifth wheel jaws are locked around the shank of kingpin, and the fifth wheel are adjusted for the space to have a space between the tractor frame, mud flaps, and between the landing gears. Has proper space between them, so they're not touching. The landing gears are securely mounted. There's no loose or missing nuts or bolts. It's not cracked or broken, and it's fully raised, and the foot is moving freely, and it's free of debris. The the trailer frame and the cross members are securely mounted. Has no loose or missing nuts or bolts. It's not cracked. It's not twisted. The trailer floor, the trailer deck, are securely mounted. There's no loose or missing nuts or bolts or any screws, and there's no any excessive wear damage on it. And landing gears supports are securely mounted. It's not cracked or broken. There's no loose or missing nuts or bolts. The crack handle is in secure position. The load cargo tie downs, such as chains and straps, they're not loosed and they're not hanging freely. And trailer deck has no any loose subjects. DOT stickers are attached. They're not missing, they're not loose, they're clean and reflective, and they're proper color for their position. The lights are not, the lenses of the lights are not cracked, not broken, they're clean and reflective. And the signs, racks, are securely mounted. They're not cracked or broken, or has no loose or missing nuts or bolts. The dual of the trailer's dually they're not touching, and the signs of it touching would be deflated the tire and has enough space between them, proper space between them, and it's clean and free of debris. The tires are evenly worn and has at least 2 seconds of tread remaining in each groove. The sides, the tire has no tread separations, has no cuts or cracks, it's not bulging, it's not no abrasions, and no bumps or exposed cords or any other damage to it. The bit flange are not damaged, no cracks or dents, and it's not leaking through it. The wheel has no any weld repairs, no any illegal weld repairs. The lug nuts are securely mounted and they're all tight. They're not missing, and the signs of a loosed nut would be a shiny tread or rust trails. Shiny tread or rust trails. And the hub seal securely mounted, and it's not leaking, and it has proper oil level. And to check that, I will see through the glass over here. And if there is no glass, I will take that cap and stick my finger to check the oil level. The stem valve securely mounted, it's not bented or damaged, and it's not leaking. Leaf spring hangers securely mounted, there's no loose or missing nuts or bolts. It's not cracked or broken. The leaf springs, brake chambers securely mounted, there's no loose or missing nuts or bolts or clamps, and it's not leaking air. The brake hoses are tightly connected, they're not cut, cracked, they're not rubbing, they're not frayed, and it's not leaking. And the hoses couplings are tightly connected and they're not leaking as well. The brake drums securely mounted, has no cracks, there's no holes, and there is no signs of grease or oil. The brake shoe has no loose or missing nuts or bolts or springs or rivets, and it's not cracked or broken, and it has at least 1/4 of an inch of pad remaining, and there is no signs of grease or oil. The trailer's mat flaps are securely mounted, there's no nuts or bolts, it's not torn or ripped, and it's hanging at least to the middle of the axle. And the brake lights, lenses are securely mounted, they're not cracked or broken, they're clean and reflective.
Have you completed your outside inspection?
I actually forgot to demonstrate my wipers and in cap.
Let's go back in and do it. Very good. With the exception of your air system checks, everything's still open.
Now I'm gonna demonstrate the wipers. They're secured and they're not broken. I'm gonna demonstrate them working. Slow speed, high speed, and my washers. All of it works properly.
Very good. Very good. Have you concluded your vehicle inspection?
Yes, it's completed.
Very nice.